All right, welcome into another Auburn Live show. I am Justin Hokanson from auburnlive.com, part of the On3 Sports Network. Appreciate everybody joining us. Wanted to hop on. We'll kind of do a little abbreviated version of the show. This is being recorded on Tuesday afternoon. Obviously, in these days when you have a search for an OC and recruiting and everything that's going on, we almost have to tell you when we're recording it because things can change so quickly. But wanted to hop on here for a few minutes and just talk about some of the new news in Auburn's search for an offensive coordinator as of Tuesday afternoon. We reported at auburnlive.com that it appears that Auburn is moving on from Arizona State offensive coordinator Zak Hill. So we talked about Zak Hill from the beginning. He's really been kind of the favorite since middle of last week. We believe that he had an offer in hand. The holdup was Arizona State is being looked at by the NCAA for some issues. And so the holdup was Auburn doing their due diligence from a compliance standpoint and wanting to know certain things just to make sure that Hill was not associated with anything there that could follow him to Auburn, anything like that. The initial holdup was Arizona State. Auburn requested a certain number of things from Arizona State late last week. And Arizona State was slow in getting those. This is not an Auburn issue. This is an Arizona State issue. And then, I think Auburn wanted to have something done on Monday. That didn't happen. Now it's Tuesday. Nothing's happened. So at this point, I know Arizona State held the process up. At this point, I don't know what the holdup would be. I would assume Auburn has everything by now, but it's possible that they don't. It's possible that there's things that they can't get right now. I don't know. But it's a compliance issue. I don't really think it's an Auburn issue. I don't think Auburn's holding anything up purposefully, obviously, or anything like that. So that's kind of where we stand with Zak Hill. So we are reporting that Auburn is moving on from Zak Hill, and it would be, very surprising if Zak Hill were the OC, unless it happens like in the next couple of hours, unless something turns around immediately right now. And they can hire him in the next couple of hours. If that doesn't happen, Auburn's, it looks like they're moving on. Of course, Zak Hill had a history with Brian Harsin of Boise State for 4 years, left to go to Arizona State to be the OC. Harsin then came to Auburn. And so that's the relationship there. It made sense from a fit standpoint. Obviously, he's a guy that worked with Harsin for 4 years and put up really good numbers at Boise State. It was a good relationship. So it made a lot of sense. So if Auburn is moving on from Brian Harsin, where do they go? We've reported a few names since last week. Frank Ponce, who is the offensive coordinator at Appalachian State, has been at Louisville as well previously. Known as a pretty good recruiter, play caller. You have Del McGee, who's the running back coach and run game coordinator at Georgia, who it seems like every time Auburn has an OC or a running back hire or something, Del McGee's name gets thrown out there. His name has been in the mix for a while. I haven't heard anything that makes me think he would get the job because, he's never been an OC. That would be, and then you'd also have to figure out who's going to coach quarterbacks with him. There's levels that make that a little bit more complicated, but fantastic recruiter. Getting him from Georgia would massively help this staff and their ability to recruit. I mean, that's for sure. Then you have Jeff Grimes, who's the offensive coordinator at Baylor. He's done a fantastic job. People may remember him. He was the offensive line coach for Auburn back in 2010, in those days. Really good guy. I think he'd be a great fit for Harsin. Similar people, quality people. Fit wouldn't be an issue. But again, doesn't coach quarterbacks. So then again, you'd have to hire him and figure out who's going to coach quarterbacks. And whether or not Grimes would even come to Auburn. Baylor obviously was top 10. They're playing in a big bowl game this year. You got to figure Grimes at BYU and then Baylor. I mean, he's on a trajectory to be a head coach. So, does he think sort of resetting and going to a place like Auburn right now is the right move? I'm not sure. If you want to go to a place like Auburn and get known, that's one thing. But he's done a great job. Everybody knows about him, and so. And to me, I think he's probably like another year away from being a head coach somewhere. I think Auburn under Harsin right now trying to build this thing and recruiting in the SEC. I'm not sure that makes a sense. That makes a lot of sense for Jeff Grimes, but his name's in the mix. We talked about Ponce. We talked about McGee. There's two new names that we added at auburnlive.com today. One is Austin Davis. Austin Davis was the quarterback for Southern Miss about 10 years ago. He was a really good player. Threw over 80 touchdowns for Southern Miss, and then he had a nice career in the NFL. 7 years in the NFL, backup role. But that's a good deal. I mean, 7 years in the NBA is a good player. In NBA, I think it's the NBA, NFL. And then he's been with the Seahawks for the last 3 years. He was an assistant quarterbacks coach, and then he's been the quarterbacks coach for the last two, obviously Russell Wilson. And so that's an interesting hire. We're told, we reported at Auburn Live that Harsin and Davis spoke on Tuesday. Just initial conversations, not saying he's the leading candidate, but he's in there. I think Auburn fans would get behind that. A young guy coming from the NFL, quarterbacks coach. So, that would help solve that. You have guys like Keesaw and Harsin who've called plays in college and can certainly help with that. And you would hope that you bring an NFL guy like Austin Davis would be, bring some schemes, bring some, high level, maybe passing concepts, things like that to the table. You have Harsin and Keesaw to lean on as a play caller. And you might be able to put something together, pretty well. And obviously from a recruiting standpoint, if you're trying to keep Bo Nix, a young guy like Austin Davis, he's probably 33, 34. A young guy like him would probably appeal to Bo Nix. I played in the NFL, things like that. And then if it's not Bo, recruiting other quarterbacks. You've got some guys that you got to train. So I think that'd be an intriguing hire, obviously an inexperienced hire, but intriguing, maybe exciting hire. And then the other name we threw out at Auburn Live today was Kenny Dillingham. Now, we're not saying he's the leading candidate. We're simply saying he's a name of interest. Don't even know if Harson's spoken with him yet, but he is somebody that they have mentioned and is of interest. Kenny Dillingham, of course, is the offensive coordinator at Florida State. He went there when Mike Norvell took over that job. He was at Auburn for 1 year in 2019 as kind of a, co-OC quarterbacks coach. Really, he came over, for that 1 year, I think, to learn. And then when Norvell got the job at Florida State, he went over there because Norvell was at Memphis when Dillingham was at Memphis with Norvell. And then I think Dillingham, it was a good opportunity to go to the SEC, get that experience. He went there for a year. Norvell gets the job at Florida State, and Dillingham hops over there. So honestly, I don't think that would be exciting for Auburn fans. I just, when he was here, he really didn't do a lot. He was kind of a guy that, he got some really good experience, but not sure how involved he was in play calling or developing the quarterbacks or anything like that. But, was there Bo's freshman year. So, maybe there's a relationship there with Bo that would be intriguing. I don't know. But they're not going to make the hire because he has a good relationship with Bo. I mean, that's not what you do. But anyway, he's a name of interest. And that's kind of where we are. I mean, there have been a lot of other names thrown out, but I would kind of stick with those five for now. I mean, Frank Ponce, we heard since last week, Grimes. I would imagine at this point, though, something should move fairly quickly. I mean, there was a little bit of a hang-up with Zak Hill. And so that's why that took a little bit longer. I don't know of any hang-ups with the guys we just talked about. Jeff Grimes is probably the only one of those guys that would probably think hard, maybe he stays. But the other guys, I mean, Dillingham, if you even went that direction, he is with Mike Norvell, who he was at with Memphis. But how Norvell might be pretty involved in the play calling there. I don't know the dynamics there. Maybe he'd have more freedom at Auburn. Florida State obviously is not quite taken off yet. Maybe Dillingham sort of resets his clock a little bit with Auburn. I don't know. But Ponce, McGee, Davis, to me, all those guys would jump on an OC opportunity. So that's kind of where we're at. It's just a quick update. I don't really have any issues with how Auburn's going about this. They're going about it at their own pace. They obviously had a big recruiting weekend this past weekend. Didn't seem to affect anything. At this point, if they could make a hire this week, probably any point this week, before early signing period, might be nice. But you're not, Holden Garner, he's solid. So you're not trying to shore up him. You're recruiting, some running backs, but that's not really going to play a big part. I mean, they're going to run the ball. So, anytime this week, at this point, there's not a massive sense of urgency to hire the OC just to get it right, probably. Other than people just think when things linger that it's going poorly. from a perception standpoint. But we'll see. We'll see if Auburn can move quickly and get something done before this next weekend, possibly, so you can go in there and shore up your offensive commits. And maybe there's some receivers that you're trying to land, right? Like Darius Clemens or some portal guys. That the quicker you get an OC, they can get in there and say, here's what I'm going to do to get you the ball, that kind of stuff. So that's where we're at. AuburnLive.com has the latest on the OC search. Pop over there, join us, join the community, the corner, chat about it. We'll continue to keep you updated the best we can. We'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.